We are talking Amityville Christmas Vacation. This is directed and starring Steve Rudzinski and is a low-budget spoof kind of horror comedy, I guess you would say. I should point out the Amityville elephant in the room. If you haven't watched any of these reviews before, you may have seen plenty of movies called Amityville something or other. That's because Amityville is a real place in America, so you can't copyright that, so anyone can make a movie and call it Amityville something and kind of almost have it associated with that kind of actual kind of franchise and therefore get kind of brand recognition. This is why you see so many Amityville movies. So here we are. Amityville Christmas Vacation. It's a shortish film, only runs around 47 minutes and isn't really a horror at all, to be brutally honest. There is a ghost involved, but it isn't really at all horrific in the slightest. Essentially follows this guy called Wally, who is a cop who apparently wins a competition to spend Christmas in this hotel, and this hotel is located next door to the famous Amityville house. But it turns out this house is haunted, and the owner of this house is essentially sacrificing people to this ghost. But when Wally goes into this house, he doesn't actually realise the female ghost that is in there is actually a ghost. He thinks it's just another housemate, and is somewhat nice to this ghost and kind of almost romantic to a certain degree. And this kind of changes the relationship between them, and it's practically a love story, really, more than anything else. Inevitably, these two kind of characters form a relationship, and that really is the basis of the story. So, what do we think? What can we say in the plus column? So, going into this movie, you have to realise it's such a low-budget film. It's probably not made for, you know, more than kind of a couple of $1,000s, I would imagine. So, it is very, very low budget. There's not really, like I say, no real horror element to this. But what I would say is it's kind of charming. I did think the actual kind of the romantic angle here was kind of sweet, I have to say. And believe you me, I'm not a particularly kind of romantic person. I don't really enjoy romance films and things like that. Surprise, surprise. But you know, I nonetheless, I did still think this kind of relationship between the characters was kind of sweet and kind of felt like kind of quite nice. It's kind of like a nice upbeat movie in some ways, despite it being such a kind of low budget. And you know, although I wouldn't say this is necessarily laugh out loud funny, there are some moments here that I found mildly amusing. That might sound like a backhanded compliment, but you know, that's as best as I can really give. So yeah, I kind of was like a couple of times. So that's about the level of comedy. But yeah, there was a couple of times where I thought it was mildly kind of amusing. Because it is so short, it doesn't outstay its welcome, obviously. And, you know, it has a kind of a somewhat of a punchy kind of runtime. And we do get a bit of, you know, threat involved when a ghost hunter ends up kind of capturing this kind of ghost, and it ends up being a kind of a rescue mission. It's very much played, the acting is kind of like cartoon characters. Don't be going into this expecting, you know, real kind of characters. It plays like a kind of pantomime to a certain degree. So it does have that kind of Christmas pantomime aesthetic. I'm not sure if you have pantomimes outside of the UK. I don't know if you know that reference is, to be honest, but certainly for me it does feel like a kind of a pantomime film. What doesn't work, I mean, it's like I said, it's such a low budget movie and it's so kind of corny. I feel like, you know, it won't probably appeal to huge amounts of people. The acting, as I say, is knowingly kind of silly and wonky, and you know, not at all taken seriously. So some people may be put off with the kind of like the B movie kind of style aesthetic of this. There's literally no horror in this. I mean, our ghost at the best with a little bit of kind of obvious kind of makeup on and contact lenses, and that's the best you'll get in regards to kind of horror elements. Even some of the external shots are literally basic kind of drawings, which adds that kind of fun aesthetic. It's, like I said, it's meant to be this kind of like mildly amusing kind of like you know, film where we see the Amityville house and it's literally like a kid's drawing of the Amityville house and things like that. So, but it's, as I say, it's very, very low tech. The actual kind of like, even though this is a short film, I have to say it was kind of like, do you know, there's so little to the actual kind of the characters and stuff. It doesn't really feel like you've been particularly going to get particularly invested. There's no VFX really, and although I did think it was kind of quite sweet. I think they could have done a little bit more to it in regards to having at least some horror elements. Maybe having a second ghost and not something like that, who would be a bit more on the kind of the horror side. I think people who want to watch this are probably like B-movie fans like myself, and who would like to see some horror elements, and there's nothing really there. It's just kind of played for laughs really more than anything else. I think maybe it's a missed to have at least maybe a second ghost which was a bit more malicious or something. There's not really much to say. The movie is such a kind of like a one joke film. It's like I say, it's relatively sweet for what it is, and, but it's you could have watched this as a 10-minute short and get everything out of this movie that you would do in the feature length running time. Do I think this is a good movie? Not really, if I'm being completely honest. I think it has a certain charm if you are into that sort of style of gonzo kind of like low budget grindhouse kind of cinema maybe. But the audience would be very limited, let me just put it like that. I'll give it a 3 out of 10. It's watchable if you know what you're kind of going to be getting. But there you go. So, have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time. Bye for now.